All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our NBA video here today. For Sunday, May 2nd, my name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. Now, we went 4-1 in our 5 premium sports picks on my Patreon website yesterday. And that's going to put us at 5-0 in our last 5 board member tier package picks on that Patreon page. Easily our hottest membership on that site right now. And the good news is this. We have another board member tier package pick going off today at about 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that pick is in Major League Baseball. Now, we're also 3-0 in our last 3 NBA tier package picks on that very same Patreon page. And we currently have over 1,050 members who are signed up and active on that site. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally, link for that page is in the description section below. Once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. With that, guys, got ourselves a pretty good game to start off with. I'm talking about the Nets versus the Bucks. 3:30 p.m. Eastern start time. Milwaukee's -1.5 at home, totals 243. Milwaukee's 20-10 straight up at the Fiserv Forum this year. They're currently leading the NBA in scoring on average per contest. The Bucks are averaging over 119 points per game, and they're making almost 41% of their three-pointers at home. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's scoring 28 points a game, 11 boards, 5 assists for the All-Star. Meanwhile, Chris Middleton's dropping over 20 a night himself, 5 rebounds, 5 assists for Middleton. The Bucks are currently, I already said that, but I guess I'll say it again. They're 20-10 straight up as the official home team. And they're in the top 3 in the league in defensive field goal percentage. And speaking of defense, the Brooklyn Nets, they don't play a whole lot of it. Brooklyn's in the bottom 3 in the entire NBA in road points allowed. The Nets are giving up 117 points a night when they travel. And they're still going to work here without the efforts of James Harden. Now, Brooklyn also ranks in the, they rank dead last in the entire NBA in third quarter points allowed on the road as well. When it comes to the total in this one, I still do think this number's a little bit high, a little bit of an over-adjustment. Brooklyn saw 2 out of their last 3 ball games stay under the line, 5 and 3 to the under in their last 8. Meanwhile, 4 out of Milwaukee's last 5 stayed under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Milwaukee Bucks -1.5 and the under 243. Next contest. Blazers versus the Celtics, 7:30 p.m. Eastern tip-off. The Boston Celtics are -1.5 at home, numbers 232 even. Despite some consistent play at the Garden this year, we're looking at a Celtics team who ranks in the bottom 10 in defensive three-point percentage. Boston also tends to give up a lot of points late. They're in the bottom 10 in fourth quarter points allowed at home. Now, Kemba Walker, he's still out indefinitely with a hip injury. He's Boston's 3rd leading scorer. They're also taking on a Portland team who won their last 3 straight, and they also successfully covered the point spread in 6 out of their last 9. Now, Portland's strength is their ability to score. They're currently leading the NBA in first quarter scoring. They're also in the top 5 in fourth quarter scoring as well. The Blazers are averaging over 116 points a game when they travel. And they're also making nearly 40% of their three-pointers in that same category. Dame Lillard, he's dropping over 28 points per contest, 4 rebounds, 7.5 assists for the starting point guard. Meanwhile, Norm Powell, he's scoring 16 points per contest himself, along with 3 rebounds. The Blazers are in the top 3 in the entire NBA in road three-point percentage. They're also 19-12 straight up as the away team. Now, total-wise, Portland's last 2 straight stayed under the line, 6 and 3 to the under in their last 9. Meanwhile, the Celtics are 18 and 15 to the under at the Garden. I'm going to lean toward the Portland Trailblazers +1.5 and the under 232. Next ball game, it is going to be Suns Thunder, 8 o'clock Eastern start. The Suns are -16 on the road, totals 222.5. Now, Phoenix has the 2nd best record in the entire NBA right now. They're just a half a game back of the Jazz for first place in the West. The Suns are currently on a 3-game winning streak. They went 5-2 against the number in their last 7. Now Phoenix is 20-9 in their 29 road games, top 5 in the league in points allowed defensively. Devin Booker scoring 25.5 points per contest, 4 rebounds, 4 assists for the starting guard. Meanwhile, Chris Paul scoring 16 a night himself, 4 rebounds, 8 assists for Paul. Phoenix allows just 108 points per contest, and they also lead the NBA offensively in shooting from the stripe on the road. They're taking on a pitiful OKC squad who has yet to reach let's try that again. They're taking on a pitiful OKC squad who has yet to reach double-digit home wins. They've won just 9 out of 32 games at the Chesapeake, and they successfully covered the point spread in just 28% of those home games. Now, in addition to being 22 games below 500, OKC's dead last in offensive scoring, dead last in home offensive free throw percentage. Dort, Pokusevski, and Muscala, they're all questionable for today's action. And when it comes to the total in this one, OKC's 4-2 to the over in their last 6 ball games, 20-12 to the over at the Chesapeake Energy Arena. Meanwhile, the Suns saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the line themselves, 6-3 to the over in their last 9. I'm going to lean toward the Phoenix Suns minus 16 and the over 222.5. Next contest, Sixers, Spurs, 8 p.m. Eastern start time. The Philadelphia 76ers are minus 6, totals 221. If you like the Spurs in an upset win at home here, they're plus 210 for some money line cash. Now, the Spurs are on a 2-game losing streak, and they really play at their worst in the AT&T Center. San Antonio has won just 13 out of 32 home games. They successfully covered the number in only 40% of those home contests. Now, in addition to playing poorly at home, the Spurs are one of the weaker rebounding teams in the association right now. San Antonio currently ranks in the bottom 3 in defensive rebounding, and they're also in the bottom 10 in offensive rebounding at home. Trey Lyles is still out. DeJounte Murray, he's questionable. They're taking on a Philadelphia team who's on a 3-game winning streak, and they also find themselves with the second-best record in the East. And as a matter of fact, the Sixers can retake sole possession of first place in the East here today with a win and a Brooklyn loss. Now, the Sixers are one of the better defensive teams in the league right now. They're in the top 5 in fewest road points allowed, as they're giving up just 107 points a game as the official away team. Joel Embiid is scoring over 29 a night, 10 boards, 3 assists for the big man. Meanwhile, Tobias Harris, he's scoring over 19.5 points per contest himself, 7 rebounds, 3 assists for Toby. In this very healthy Sixers lineup here today, they've proven, consistently to be amongst the better rebounding teams in the game. They're certainly going to be the better rebounding team on the court here today. They're in the top 10 in both offensive and defensive rebounding. Now, total-wise, Philadelphia saw 3 out of their last 5 get over the total, throwing out the OKC game. Meanwhile, the Spurs saw their last 3 straight get over the number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Philadelphia 76ers minus 6 in the over 221. Next ball game, it is going to be Kings versus the Mavericks, 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The Dallas Mavericks are minus 6.5, totals 228, juice to the over. But as good as the Mavericks have been here recently, they've still done a pretty poor job covering the number at home. Now, out of the Dallas Mavericks' 31 home games this year, they successfully covered the point spread only a dozen times. And of course, that's good for just 38% in that particular category. Dallas is in the bottom 5 in the league in home offensive rebounding. They're also in the bottom 10 in defending the 3-ball at home as well. Their second leading scorer, Kristaps Porzingis, he's questionable with a knee injury. Meanwhile, Terry, he's questionable as well. Now, they are taking on a Sacramento club here who, believe it or not, they've been victorious in 2 out of their last 3 ball games. And they successfully covered the point spread 6 times in their last 8 outings. Sacramento has certainly done a nice job putting up points on the board here this year. They're in the top 10 in scoring on average per contest. They're also in the top 5 in offensive field goal percentage. And despite the potential absence of Harrison Barnes here today, the Kings are still led by Buddy Hield, who's scoring 16.5 points a game, along with 4 rebounds and 3 assists. Meanwhile, Rashawn Holmes, he's scoring 14.5 points per contest himself, along with 8 boards. Now, De'Aaron Fox, he is still inactive as he's in COVID protocol. And when it comes to the total on this one, Sacramento saw games with Utah, Minnesota, and Phoenix get over the total here recently. Meanwhile, Dallas saw their last 3 straight get over the line themselves, 70% to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward the Sacramento Kings plus 6.5 and the over 228. Next contest, it is going to be Heat versus the Hornets, 8 p.m. Eastern tip-off. Now, the Miami Heat, they're -5, totals to 11.5. But despite a real nice stretch of games here recently, Miami still failed to cover the number in 3 out of their last 5 contests. Now, the Miami Heat, they may also have to go to work here today without the efforts of Haslam and Hero. Both are listed as questionable for today's matinee here. I guess it's not a matinee at 8. Matinee is more around noontime, I think. I don't know. I don't really know the definition of the word matinee. I guess noontime, mid-afternoon? I don't know. But anyway, Miami currently has a losing record on the road. And they're one of the worst offensive teams in the NBA. They currently rank in the bottom 5 in scoring on average per contest. They find themselves averaging only 104 points a game on the road. Now, in addition to that, Miami makes just 33% of their three-pointers away from home. And they're in the bottom 3 in road offensive rebounding. Now, they're taking on a Charlotte squad who won 3 out of their last 5. And they play their best basketball at the Spectrum Center. The Hornets are currently in the top 3 defensively in home points allowed. They're also in the top 3 in defending the 3-ball at home as well. The Hornets allow just 107 points a game on their home court. And they're holding their opponents to just 33% shooting from beyond the arc in that same category. And despite the potential absence of Devontae Graham, Charlotte's led by Terry Rozier, who's scoring over 20 points per contest, 4 rebounds, 4 assists for the starting guard. Meanwhile, looks like LaMelo Ball, he's fairly healthy these days. Looks like we should see him in action here tonight. He scores over 15.5 points per contest, along with 5 boards and 6 assists. Now, total-wise, 7 out of Charlotte's last 10 meetings with Miami did get over the line. Meanwhile, Miami saw their last 5 straight ball games get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Charlotte Hornets plus 5 and the over 211.5. Next contest, it is going to be Knicks versus the Rockets, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. The New York Knicks are -11, totals 217.5. But as hot as the Knicks have been here recently, they really don't score a ton of points. So I'm not so certain this is a very favorable number laying double digits on the road here. And speaking of the road, the Knicks have actually played their worst basketball this season when traveling. Now, if you want to get a little bit more specific here, they've been victorious in only 13 of 30 road games. The Knicks also rank in the bottom 3 in the entire NBA in road scoring. The Knicks are averaging just 104 points a game away from their home court. Now, they're taking on a Houston Rocket team who, I get it, I understand that they're terrible. But despite their struggles here, they've successfully covered the point spread in 3 out of their last 5 ball games. And of course, Christian Wood, he's been back in the lineup. He's leading the ball club with 21 points per contest, along with 9 rebounds. Meanwhile, Kelly Olynyk, he scores over 18 points a game himself, 8 rebounds, 3 assists for the forward. Now, House, Bradley, and Brown, they're all questionable as usual, so keep an eye on them. But when it comes to the total on this one, Houston saw 5 out of their last 7 ball games stay under the line. 22-11 to the under as the official home team. Meanwhile, the Knicks, they went 60% to the under in their 30 road games this season themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Rockets plus 11 and the under 217.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Raptors versus the Lakers, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The LA Lakers are -7.5, totals 217 flat. Now, LeBron James and Alex Caruso, they're both questionable for tonight's action. The Lakers are also on a 2-game losing streak, while also failing to cover the point spread in their last 6 straight. As a matter of fact, the Lakers have been victorious in only 3 out of their last 10 ball games, and they currently rank in the bottom 3 in the entire NBA in shooting the 3-ball at home. The Lakers are making just 33% of their three-pointers at the Staples Center, and they're just 1 game ahead of the 7th-place Trailblazers in the Western Conference standings. Now, Los Angeles is taking on a Toronto team who went 6-3 against the number in their last 9 ball games, and they also rank in the top 10 in defensive field goal percentage. And of course, despite the potential absence of Gary Trent Jr. here today, the Raptors are still led by Pascal Siakam, who's dropping over 20.5 points a night, along with 7 rebounds. Siakam's also averaging 4 assists a game as well. Meanwhile, Freddie VanVleet, he's scoring 19 a game himself, 4 rebounds, 6 assists for the starting guard. Now, total-wise, Toronto's 20-12 to the over when they travel. Meanwhile, the Lakers saw a contest with Orlando, Dallas, Utah, Boston, and New York get over the total recently themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Toronto Raptors plus 7.5 and the over 217. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like Milwaukee minus 1.5 under 243. Portland plus 1.5 under 232. Phoenix Suns minus 16 over 222.5. Philadelphia minus 6 over 221. Sacramento plus 6.5 over 228. Charlotte Hornets plus 5 over 211.5. Houston Rockets plus 11 under 217 and a hook. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 5-0 in our last 5 board member tier package picks on my Patreon website. We're also 3-0 in our last 3 NBA tier package picks on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the Toronto Raptors plus 7.5 and the over 217. And with that, guys, now it's time for our shout outs to our top 10 YouTube commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to Gary DeStefano, Nasty Nate Kinzer. Shout out to Butt Cop. Shout out to Wild Kings, Marcus Beasley, Kush Raja, BK Spaz, Buddha Gang Venom. Shout out to Troy Moore. And last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to my good friend, Derek Mastrangelo. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do get a package here today, you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of May. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Sunday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.